Today, we're back with another episode of Collections, Card Shops, and Collectors, a series highlighting the best the hobby has to offer. And in today's video, we sit down with sports card investor Jeff Wilson to hear about his journey in sports cards. All right, what's going on, YouTube?
Hello, Card Collector 2. Welcome to Atlanta.
Thank you. We are back with another episode. We are here with Jeff Wilson, sports card investor in Atlanta. Jeff, I greatly appreciate you coming on our channel here and filming this with us and for welcoming us here in Atlanta.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. I'm excited for the show today. I got some cool cards to show, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about sports card investor and what we've got going on as well. So this should be a lot of fun.
Awesome. So we're going to ask Jeff some questions. We're going to see a little bit of his incredible collection here. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of Jeff's videos and you've probably seen a lot of these, but I want to get some insight on why these cards. So I think this will be fun. But first and foremost, how did Sports Card Investor start? Like, where did the journey start for you?
Sports Card Investor started, so obviously big into sports cards as a kid, like many people are. Went on and became an entrepreneur, have started a whole bunch of companies, and a lot of the business skills that I learned about like finance and entrepreneurship and hustle and all that kind of stuff, some of that came from when I was flipping sports cards as a kid, right? So sports cards have always had like a precious place in my heart, but I had lost touch with them for many, many years, like many people did, right? 2018, I get back into it. What actually happened was my son was visiting my mom back in 2018. He was down at her house, his grandmother, and they were at Target, and she bought him a pack of football cards in the Target checkout aisle. And she said to him, "Your dad used to really love these when he was your age." She bought him a pack of football cards. He comes back to Atlanta, and he goes, "Dad, look what Vivi bought me." And I was like, "Oh, football cards, that's awesome, man. I used to be into those when I was a kid. I haven't, And so we opened the cards together, and I'm like, wow, like these cards look really nice. This is really awesome. They're all shiny now, And so I bring out all my old cards, and that starts the nostalgia. That starts the memories. And that's like real precious to me because my mom, unfortunately, the following year, she passes away. She got brain cancer and it was kind of sudden. Even though she never saw this whole sports card investor journey. She passed away a few months before I started the YouTube show, but she actually started the sports card investor journey, right?
Wow.
By buying him that pack of cards. Because if she hadn't bought him the pack of cards and if he hadn't come back and opened it with me, I may never have rediscovered sports cards again. And that's, so that's really kind of that cool connection piece.
That's crazy. It's cool to look back and seeing how something so small turned into something so big in your life, right?
Yeah.
You guys have built something really incredible and something that's just massive in the sports card industry. So
it's been amazing. It's been humbling. Like when I started the YouTube show in 2019. So when I got back into cards in 2018, I was telling my friends, I'm like, I think this is going to be really big again. I'm like, the cards are really cool and I'm getting more and more into it and I'm buying boxes online and it is in early 2019 and I'm telling my friends, I'm like, I really think this is going to like blow up and I see lots of business potential here. And then Gary Vee goes on the Rich Eisen show. I think this was like March or April of 2019. And that's the first time he came out publicly and talked about how he thought sports cards were going to have this big inflection moment again. Well, I had been talking to all my friends about this. So my friends hear this interview on the Rich Eisen show. And all of a sudden, like that day, the interview comes out, I get like text messages from my friends going like, OMG, Jeff, listen to this. This is what you've been talking about. And so then I listened to the Gary Vee clip and that was just confirmation for me. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, he sees this. He's going to start talking about this. Like, this is confirmation of like what I've been thinking and seeing. And so that was the moment that I'm like, all right, I got to act on this. I got to do something because I really do think this is going to become big. And my first idea was market movers. My first idea was that because I had been buying cards and selling cards, and I realized there was no platform, no product, no app that would show you what cards were worth. All we had was like eBay sold items history, which was, you know, full of bad results and there was no charts. There was not like, it was not super helpful. And I said, there needs to be a product that takes all the most popular cards, takes all their sales history, charts it, graphs it, allows you to compare players, you know, all this stuff. And so that was the idea for Market Movers. And so I said, all right, I got to build that. The other thing that struck me about the sports card hobby back then is there was a total lack of content. There were a few podcasts, but not many. Yep. There was not much on YouTube outside of like breakers. Yep. Social media was pretty big. Obviously, you were, you know, on Instagram early and had built up a huge audience there. That was emerging, but overall, I was like, this is a huge industry. There needs to be actual quality content. And I took the angle of people talking about the dollars and cents, which there wasn't much of at all. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to start with the YouTube show. And if I can get subscribers to the YouTube show, then that does two things for me. First of all, it validates that there's a market of people that want to see charts and graphs of sports cards, which then will inspire me to build Market Movers. It will validate my idea. And second of all, if I get subscribers, it will then give me a base of people that when I come out with Market Movers, that I can market Movers to, right? So that was kind of the idea of like, let's start with the YouTube show. Let's see if this is a thing. Let's see if other people care about what I care about. I was really, frankly, creating the content that I myself wanted to consume. If somebody else out there had already been creating that type of content, I might have just latched onto them. Yep. I might not have started my own show, but nobody was really doing it, at least to that extent that I had seen, you know, kind of had the vision to do. So that's what started it all in 2019. And then of course, you know, obviously the incredible rise of the market and everything like that. It's been just a wild journey.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that. That's a very cool story. You talk about Market Movers.
Yep.
You just launched Market Movers X.
We did, yeah, which was awesome, and that launch went really, really well. It was something my team had worked hard on for months. So it's essentially the next version of Market Movers, the next generation of Market Movers. When we launched Market Movers in February of 2020, it was the first product of its kind. It was the first product that could chart what sports cards were doing in the market. Nothing else out there was like it. Since then, some others have come along. But it was February 2020 when we came out with it. Well, that was 2.5 years ago now, you know, time's flown. And so there was a lot we felt like we could do to improve it. And, you know, especially like the user interface, we were like, man, this thing needs to be just a lot easier to use and a lot cooler looking and just, you know, making it easier to track your collection and everything. So for the last several months, we worked on like the next version of it, which we call Market Movers X. And then we officially launched that in September. Thankfully, it's been extremely successful. We got, you know, multi-thousands of new people signing up for it, and a lot of happy people who are using it right now. So that's been awesome. And we're going to continue to build on it and make it better and better.
Very cool. All right, I want to get into some of the cards. There's some more of your journey and your life that I want to talk about, but we have a wide variety.
I brought out a lot of different things. You know, I have a big collection, so it was difficult to decide. I didn't want to, you know, bring out all of it. It was difficult to decide what to highlight, but I brought out some cards that have a little more meaning for me in addition to, you know, being what I think are good investment pieces. So I figured I'd do that.
So in terms of meaning to you, right? Some of your personal favorites outside of value, what do you think some of those would be that are here?
Well, so I'm going to start with some older vintage classic stuff. I don't have a lot of vintage. I've only really gotten kind of into vintage a little bit more recently. Most of my stuff's more modern. But I've come to appreciate things like the 1933 Babe Ruth Gowdy set because I think I see these as like historical artifacts. Okay. You know, like that's the one thing I really do like about vintage is I feel like these cards have survived 90 years. And they've survived 90 years during a time period when during a lot of that, people didn't care about the condition of cards. People saw cards as throwaways. Yep. How did these ones survive? Sure. Why are these ones still here today? And it's really cool like to look at cards like these and the ones that I bought, they're nice looking images. They look crisp. They look, you know, and so it's like, man, this is printed 90 years ago. This is like a piece of American history.
Yeah.
And then this summer at the National, I bought the 51 Bowman mantle. I love this one. I was hunting around for a 52, but truthfully, like, I like this card better from an eye appeal standpoint. And this copy in particular, I thought just had such a bright, vibrant image, you know, that it really caught my eye. I really liked it a lot. So that's my, you know, I'm not gonna ever build like a massive vintage collection, but I do want to get some of the key cards, and I love just kind of love thinking about the history behind it.
Sure. Yeah. It's very cool. It's I have 52s. I don't have the 51s, and I feel like every time I post about a 52, everyone says, "Well, the 51s is rookie. That's the one to get."
Right.
And I don't know as much about vintage, so it's been something I've been trying to learn more about in the past year or so. So I think one of those may be on my list in the future.
Cool. Those are awesome cards. So I when I was collecting as a kid, it was in the 80s. I was an 80s collector, right? Late 80s collector. And so unfortunately, a lot of the cards from that time are now not worth anything, not super collectible. But Bo Jackson was one of the biggest guys who I was after.
Sure.
Like probably the biggest guy I was after in the late 80s.
Okay.
And what makes this card special is this is his 86 Topps Traded rookie card, which in a PSA 10 is high-ish in population. I think there's around 2,000 of them. But this one he autographed, and it's a 1010. And that makes the population of this, it's way under 100. So I like that concept of like, how do you take a more common card from the 80s, a card that I loved as a kid, but make it more rare and valuable. And I really think it's the autograph and the 1010, and that does it. So that card to me has a lot of meaning.
That's very cool.
Yeah, that guy was incredible. Another guy who, of course, you know, being an 80s kid, Michael Jordan was the guy. Sure. And this is the iconic 1986 Fleer PSA 10. So that's like, you know, probably the crown jewel of my collection, you know, I'd say. But by the way, it's in a red Slabstrong. Shout out to Slabstrong. I love Slabstrong and use them to protect my cards. That's a you know, just absolutely iconic card. Obviously, you know, iconic card, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's cool to have that one. But you know, in terms of like eye appeal, like this is probably one of my very, very favorite Jordan cards. That's the 1998 Skybox Molten Metal, numbered to 250. So, you know, there weren't a lot of numbered cards back in the 90s. And they were starting to become more common in the late 90s, but there still weren't a ton. So there's not a lot of numbered Jordan cards from that 1990s era. This was one of them. And this, I just think it's such a beautiful card.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not a big 90s insert guy.
Yep.
I know a lot of people are, but I didn't collect in the 90s. Yep. So as I look back on that era, the inserts that appeal to me are the ones that I think have the most eye appeal, and this is one for sure. And then this is one of my very favorite cards.
Really?
Because you got Jordan on one side and you got Kobe on the other. And it's that East-West refractor, you know, from the All-Star game that year. It's one of my very favorites. I love that one.
PSA 10 too.
PSA 10 as well, and the refractor, so that's real cool.
So you talk about your favorite. Is that your favorite card here?
That's probably not my favorite card here.
What would it be?
We're going to jump forward in time. And we're going to go with this one. It's not my most valuable card by any means, but it's one that has the most meaning to me. So this is obviously Luka and Trey, and it's their dual auto from Immaculate. And it's number 1 of 49, which makes it particularly cool. But the reason why this card is so special to me is because I got back in the hobby in 2018.
Yep.
And these were the guys who, my first year in the hobby, everybody wanted, everybody was chasing. And so I was chasing, you know? So as I was buying the new basketball releases that were coming out, I was looking for Luka and I was looking for Trey. And so when Immaculate came out, I think 2019 Immaculate was released in 2019, and I saw in the checklist that there was a dual auto. I'm like, oh, I really want that card. Well, it was actually Redemption. So, and I opened a few boxes of Immaculate. I didn't pull it, but I went on eBay and I found somebody selling the Redemption on eBay. So I bought the Redemption and I sent it in, and Panini sent it back. Imagine that. In a timely manner.
Love to see
Imagine
it.
that. It came back quickly.
Love to see it.
And it was numbered the 1 of 49. And so to just have these two guys with on-card autos together, like that to me is just like super special, just because it reminds me of, when I got back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. What you talk about when you got in, it started with your son getting a pack.
Yep.
What's it he's a lot more into it now.
He's way more into it now.
So he's got his own YouTube channel.
He's got his own YouTube channel, Card Kids, which is awesome, and it actually is done incredibly well. He's got videos now that have like 30,000 views, 40,000 views. I'm like, man, he's going to put me out of business here if he keeps this pace going.
But what's that been like to see him have the passion that you have for it, and to be able to collect and create content with your son?
As a dad, it is the most special thing imaginable.
Yeah.
It really is. Like to be able to share in that experience with him, to be able to take him to a card show, to be able to watch him navigate the show floor, confidently go up to dealers, know the price of things, know if he's getting a good deal or not.
Sure.
It's like so cool. And it's not just him. There's so many kids now at card shows, and they're savvy. Yeah. Like they know. I mean, you see them. You got kids at your trade nights, right? Like they learn, and I love it because it's how, in my opinion, this cards is the ultimate way for kids to cut their teeth on business, finance, entrepreneurship. Money, negotiating, all that kind of stuff, and in a safe environment, right?
Yeah.
Like and he's made some bad deals. He's even at the National this year, like he made a couple of bad deals on the show floor that afterwards, as we were looking at comps and everything, is it's like Reeves, like I shouldn't have done that one, man. Like you ended up upside down in that trade by like $400 or something, and but that's the lesson, right? That's the learning, that's the teaching, that's the he learns that, and he's going to be stronger and better because of it. And what a great time to learn it, because if he loses, $50 on a trade or whatever happens, the loss will have no detrimental impact on his life. Sure. But the learning from that will have an incredibly positive impact on his life forever. So I just think cards are so great for kids to be into, and I'm super passionate about that.
That's awesome. What market's not gone the right way, right? I think we would both agree that the market is definitely down over the last 30, 60, 90 days. It's probably most of 2022. It's definitely a different market. With that being said, is there anything in particular you're maybe looking at picking up? I know you did a video earlier this year that you picked up some really big cards in investing.
I bought a lot of big ones this summer, yeah. Like I bought, that's when I bought this LeBron James Topps Chrome Rookie Refractor, 2003, the black, PSA 10, number to 500. The population on this card is in the 20s, I think. It's a really low, It's number to 500, and with the PSA 10, it's a really low population card. Yeah. It's hard to find in that condition. I bought that card for $114,000, and it had sold last year at the peak for $480,000. $480,000. Yeah. There were multiple sales of it between $400,000 and $500,000, and I picked it up for $114,000. Now it has sold once since then for around $105,000. So it's even come down a little bit more since I bought it. But I felt like, I was like, man, like LeBron, this is a card that, in my opinion, is going to have a ton of value and a ton of interest 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. Those are the types of cards I'm buying right now. Gotcha. I'm buying the cards. I'm not buying as much the new rookie prospects, whatever. I'm buying the ones that I feel like that's going to have a lot of value in 50 years, in 30 years, because I don't exactly know what the market's going to do from here. It could go down further. That card could go down to $50,000. I don't know, but I believe that 20 years from now, 50 years from now, that card could be $1 million. Or more, right? So like I feel, and I don't know that for sure, but I feel good about the long-term value of that. So even if, I don't know exactly where the bottom of this is. I'm hoping it's where we are now, but I don't know. But I'm going to continue to buy, and kind of cost average on some of these cards, but I'm going to buy cards that I think are really smart long-term investments. And no matter what the market does in the next 6 months or year or 2 years, I believe that 5, 10 years from now, it's going to be strong. And so I'll hopefully be able to ride that back up.
You talk about 1 year, 2 year, 5 years. In terms of the market, what's it look like for a sports card investor?
I'm excited. You know, despite the fact that card prices have come down, our content in the last 6 months has gotten more views than ever before, ever. So interest remains high. Like, I don't think interest is dropping off. Yeah. I just think people are a little tighter about spending their money.
Sure.
But they haven't lost interest. And so to me, that's a great sign. So we are doubling down. We're continuing to create more content. We're trying to push in more directions with creating really interesting content and letting people experience the hobby. We have been focusing more and more on collector content. I mean, frankly, this show that you're doing right here is that, right? It's awesome collector content, and we've been focusing more on highlighting collections and doing that type of thing. So really, we want to showcase how the hobby is just an awesome experience for collecting. It can be whatever you want it to be. Sure. It can be flipping, it can be long-term investing, it can be straight up PC collecting, it can be whatever you want it to be, but we want to showcase all of it. So we're going to continue to invest in content. We're obviously going to continue to, improve our products like our free sports card investor app and Market Movers, and we're going to continue to innovate. And we're right now planning out what we're going to do in 2023, and we've got some new ideas we're going to bring to the table and try some new things, and we're going to forever be innovative in that way. So I'm excited. No matter what the market does, I still think sports cards have a really bright future, and there's always people out there who just love to connect, love to collect, and then love to connect with other collectors and with their kids through it. So this is always going to be a big thing, and we want to be the company that helps people. It helps enhance their experience.
That's awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool. As we wrap it up, I ask everybody that we have on this the same question, and I'm very interested in your answer. You've built the biggest sports card brand in cards from a content perspective. In my opinion, I think you are the most known sports card collector there is. You built a massive, massive sports card company. But the journey has been it's been an interesting one, right? You went to Florida, you built other companies, you've done so many cool things in your life. If you had to start over today, knowing what you know now, what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
Wow, that is a tough question. What piece of advice would I give my younger self? So first of all, it wouldn't be anything like direction changing, because I've had along the way a lot of losses as well. Like thankfully I've started a number of companies that have done really well and have had, big paydays. But I've also started things and have done things that have turned out to be losers and have lost money and have done bad. But I wouldn't change any of that. So, because that's part of the journey, that's part of the experience you learn from. So I'm not going to go back in time and tell myself like, oh, do this.
Yeah,
or don't do it. Because no, it's actually like it's all gotten me to where I am today, and I'm happy with the entire journey. So I wouldn't do that. The one thing I would probably just say, and this is more of, I guess, just kind of a business motivated thing. With certain things, it pays to crawl before you walk and walk before you run. As a entrepreneur, I have a million ideas a minute, and I love to run into things and do things.
Yep.
And sometimes I've done things too quickly, too aggressively. I've invested too much to start. One of the cool things with business today is that because you can start businesses online and you can do all this, you can build a market, you can build customers, you can build a following without having to invest a ton of money right up front. Yep. And you can do it a little more organically and build a base. And then if you have the base, then you can pour the fuel on, which is frankly, Ryan, exactly your story. Like, you started the sports card thing by buying and selling and trading through online forums. It was a side hustle. You had a full-time job for many years while you were doing it. And then once it got enough, you went all in.
Yeah.
I probably sometimes go all in a little too quickly and sometimes bypass the other steps because I get real excited. Yeah. And in the times in my life when I have, had things go awry, it's probably a little bit because of that. So I dialed that down a little bit, but I don't regret those experiences because having those experiences taught me this lesson, which I'm, now talking to you about.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But it's been a fun ride, man. It's been a fun ride. And I think it will continue to be a fun ride for many years to come.
That's so awesome. This was one I was really looking forward to. Incredible collection, incredible story. I cannot thank you enough for doing this with us. It was a blast. Appreciate it, son.
Good to see you, Ryan.
Thank you, Jeff. That is all we got for now, guys. Peace.